this computer. All right.
Now
share screen. Share. Guys, can you all see? Hello? All right. نحن بنبلش. السلام عليكم. الإدارة التنفيذية لشركة عمان والإمارات ترحب بجميع المشاركين في هذه جلسة المناقشة الافتراضية حول النتائج المالية للشركة للنصف الأول من عام 2022. في البداية نعبر عن تقديرنا للهيئة العامة لسوق المال على تمهيد الفرصة للقاء المستثمرين والمحللين ووسائل الإعلام وأصحاب المصلحة الآخرين. كما نعبر عن تقديرنا لبورصة مسقط على تنظيم الجدول الزمني لهذه الجلسات المباشرة والتفاعلية. نحن نعتبر هذا كخطوة مهمة لتعزيز ثقافة الشفافية في السوق العماني. Good afternoon, gentlemen. السلام عليكم. The executive management of Oman Emirates welcomes all participants to this virtual discussion session on our financial results for the first half of 2022. Now, at the outset, we express our appreciation to the Capital Market Authority for paving the opportunity to meet investors, analysts, media, and other stakeholders. Now, we also express appreciation to Muscat Securities Exchange for organizing the timetable of these live interactive sessions. Now, we view this as an opportunity and an important step for enhancing the transparency culture of Oman market. Okay, now with us we have كما يحضر معنا حاليا مسؤولين من الإدارة التنفيذية. عندنا دكتور سعيد الخروسي مدير الإدارة وعلاقات المستثمرين المعين من قبل مجلس الإدارة، وعندنا السيد شاه عباس رضوي المدير المالي. The officers attending with us today are consist of the following: Dr. Saeed Al-Kharousi is manager of administration and public relations as designated by the board of Oman Emirates, and we also have Mr. Shah Abbas Rizvi, a finance manager. Okay, now the first step is, please look at this disclaimer. I'll start in Arabic first. هناك نقطة إدارية يجب أن لفت الانتباه إليها. نحن قمنا بإعداد عرض تقييمي الغرض منه تلخيص البيانات والمناقشة وتبادل المعلومات. يتم الآن تسجيل هذه المناقشات وسيتم تحميل النص الفيديو الكامل على موقع بورصة مسقط باعتباره كموقع أساسي للإفصاح. أكيد نتوقع من المحللين والمشاركين الآخرين استخدام هذه الجلسات للحصول على معلومات عن شركة عمان والإمارات، ولكن في عملية التفاعل بالتزامن مع هذا العرض التقديمي من المهم جدا قراءة أخلاق المسؤولية المذكور في هذه الشريحة. جميع النقاط مذكورة هنا، أي القيود على الإفصاح جزئيا أو كليا أو عدم تشجيع الاستثمار وما إلى ذلك، من المهم قبولها من المستلم. Gentlemen, there is an important point on administrative side. We have prepared the presentation, the purpose of which is, of course, the purpose of this presentation and subsequent discussions is exchange of information. Now, we have prepared the presentation and these discussions are being recorded, and the full transcript, the video, will be uploaded on the Muscat Securities Exchange website, being the primary site for disclosure. And of course, we are expecting analysts and other participants to use these sessions to engage and obtain information on Oman Emirates. But in the process of interaction and in conjunction with this presentation, it is very important and other participants, and it's very important to read the disclaimer which you've seen just in the previous slide. I apologize for this. It's very important for all participants to acknowledge this. Now, all points mentioned here, I mean, namely restrictions by recipients to disclosure, in part or in whole, not soliciting investment, and of course, all of these are important points to be recognized and accepted by the recipient. Okay, now, having said this, مع ذلك فإننا نترك قواعد التفاعل الصادرة بموجب قرار الهيئة العامة لسوق المال، وكما هو منصوص عليه في ذلك، إذا رغب أي منهم في الحصول على معلومات إضافية بخلاف ما تم الإفصاح عنه علنا، فيجب الاتصال رسميا بمسؤول العلاقات المستثمرين دكتور سعيد. Now, of course, however, having said that, we acknowledge that the rules of interaction issued by the CMA, and as prescribed therein, if any of them desire to obtain additional information that are not published, it is important to approach the investor relations officer formally. Now, having said this, we will now proceed with the presentation. مع ذلك سنواصل العرض التقديمي الذي سيركز فقط على النتائج المالية للنصف الأول من عام 2022. لن تتم مناقشة أي خطط مستقبلية بموجب التزاماتنا بالسرية ووضع الشركة. Now, having said this, we will now proceed with the presentation, which will focus solely on the financial results for the first half of 2022. No future plans will be discussed under our obligations to confidentiality and position. Now, the structure of the presentation is, as you can see on the screen, there will be a quick overview of our company. We will present the financial position as disclosed in our half-year results. It will address the total assets, the total liabilities, the total borrowings, debt equity ratio. We'll also explain the profit and loss and the changes that have happened. And then there'll be analysis of all the major items that have been disclosed. And you've got a list of 12 items over there, following which we'll have the session of questions. The first thing is this about Oman Emirates. It's almost 3 decades that this company has been established. It was a joint venture between the two countries, and the whole mission is to help realize the policies and fulfill the objectives of the government of Oman and the United Arab Emirates in diversifying source of non-illicit income and creating socio-economic benefits through initiating, promoting, investing, and implementing vital projects. Now, we always follow 3 objectives. We have a strategic objective, which is successful technology transfer and absorption. We've done that in certain projects. Social employment opportunities for training nationals, and financial, of course, it's shareholder wealth. Now, the core activities, we have investments, funds in stocks, bonds, and securities, and project development. We identify, evaluate, invest, and implement projects. This is just a quick overview. You have seen these published. What we are going to focus is only from January to June for the first 6 months of this year and the previous for comparison, and we're going to go into details. You've seen the total income in very big summary. There has been between 1.5 million to 2.6 million, and you've seen also the profit after tax, which is this. And of course, we will give you here a brief description of what those changes are. The first thing to do is to show you as a holding company, these are the components of our income. We get rental income, dividend income, realized gain on sale of financial assets, and unrealized gain or loss on financial assets at fair value through TPL, net. And we also address the share of loss of profit from associate and subsidiaries net. The year has seen the total income of 2.6 million compared to 1.58 million last year. It's almost a million more, that's 65% above what we achieved. Our expenses have reduced by about 10%, from 400 down to 358, okay? Which means it gives us a net profit, operating profit of 2.2 million, and that's 1 million more than last year. That's about 90% more. Reducing the financial costs, we've ended up a profit after tax of 1.9 million, compared to 849. And of course, that gives us basic earnings per share of 16 pesos as opposed to 7 pesos same period last year. That's 9 pesos increase. Now, this is the balance sheet. What we're going to address in the balance sheet are two aspects. One, comparison with the beginning of the year in now 6 months, and another one, comparison for the past year. So therefore, this would be comparison between the first 6 months, and the second part will be comparison with the year ago. Now, of course, these are the results, the total assets. As you can see, for the past, since December to now, our assets have reduced from 40 million to about 37 million, and there'll be some explanations given later on. Whereas compared to a year before, our assets have dropped from 43 to 37. This, of course, liabilities for the past 6 months have dropped from 18 million down to 13 million. And compared to last year, they've dropped from 21 million to 13 million, and there'll be an explanation for this as well. And of course, this results in the total equity total equity having reached 23 million, whereas it was 21 million at the beginning of the year and 21 million a year ago. So you can see the development in this. Now, how is this coming on the balance sheet? The first thing is we look at the 6 months difference between 30th June 2022 and 31st December. One of the balance sheet assets, these are the components of our balance sheet asset. We've got financial assets at fair value through TPL, investment in associates, financial assets at amortized cost, investment in subsidiaries, and investment properties. These are the components of our assets, broadly as a holding company. Having said this, our total assets have dropped from 40 million at the beginning of the year to 37 million. That's about 2.7 million. There'll be an explanation on this. Now, our liabilities have dropped from 18 million to 13 million. That's almost just under 5 million over the past 6 months. And of course, our equity in the meantime has increased from 21 million to 23 million. Now, if you look at our borrowing, commercial borrowings, at the beginning of the year, we had 17 million plus borrowing. It's down to 12 million. That's almost just under 5 million reduction in borrowing. This is in line with the financial strategy that we've been adopting since 2020 when COVID, the pandemic, still started. So finally, you could see debt equity ratio between the beginning of the year 0.8, now we are down to 0.53. Now, this is the comparison between the first 6 months of the year. Now, we will go to the comparison between 30th June 2022 to 30th June 2021 over a year. Again, June 2021, our total assets were 43. Today, we are down to 37. That's about 5.5 billion reduction. Now, our liabilities at the time were 21 million. Today, we're down to 13 million. That's almost 8.2 million now, and our equity, whereas in last year we were about 21 million, we are now 23 million. That's the equity. What happened to our borrowings? The total borrowings a year ago were 21 million. We are now down to 12 million. That's, you can see the result, more than 8 million. And of course, finally, the debt equity ratio, a year ago, our debt equity was 1.101. We are now 0.53. Okay, now, you remember we said the financial assets that we got. In June 2022, our financial assets at fair value through TL were 11 million, whereas in December at the beginning, 16 million. Now we have a variance of 5.5 million roughly. This is due to the disposal of investments in Oman, with Octal holding company that everybody knows about being the largest. The carrying value was about 5.1 million, and others having carrying value of 0.34 million. The realized gain during the past 6 months from this was 1.89 million overall on the sale of the investment. Our net unrealized gain amounted to 327,000 on quoted investments in Oman, mainly from the banking sector. Unrealized gain of 39,000 on quoted investments in UAE from the insurance sector. And if you look at the composition, our quoted securities overall increased by 22%, as you can see from this chart and the difference. This is just a quick overview of the financial assets at fair value. Now, we've got, of course, investment in associate, everybody knows. In June 2022, we were roughly about 14 million. In December, 14.1 million. The investment associate, of course, declined by a net of 199,000 from the year end to share of loss. There were about 88,000 loss. We had we received dividends of about 151 and a share of profit of 40. That gives us the difference between the two, as you can see here. Now, investment in subsidiaries, June 2020, we were about 3.7 million, whereas at the beginning of the year, we were about 3.8. Now, you know from our published policies, Oman Emirates follows equity accounting for its subsidiaries, and any change represents the share of profit loss from its subsidiaries. So coming back, during the period ended 30th June, the share of loss from its subsidiaries amounted to 124,000, which you can see here. This is about associate and subsidiaries. Now, if you look at our overdraft, June 2022, we are about 217,000, whereas in December, 562.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Of course, during the period, the parent company's overdraft reduced by about 344,000. If you look at our trade and other payables, in June, we were 916, whereas in December 2021, it was 812. The net increase of 104,000 is mainly due to the penal interest accrued on overdue payment. We were late in paying the government, and this was partially offset by repayment of current obligations that we trade payable. Our term loans in June 2022, we stand at 2.4 million, whereas in December it was 3.1 million. The current company's term loans were reduced by 650,000 approximately. Loan from the governments, in June 2022, we are from governments, 9.38, whereas in December 12.
Basically 13 13.8.
Correct. So we managed to reduce 3.8 million over the past 6 months, in fact, 2 months ago. And our dividend income in June 2022 were 480,000 roughly, whereas in June 2021 it was 239. Total dividend income of RO 480 was received mainly from banking, education, and insurance investments. So this is the dividend income. Finally, net profit from financial assets at fair value TPL, June 2022, 2.2 million, whereas in June 2021, 410,000. The overall gain in net gain of RO 1.8 million contributed from securities resulted from a combination of unrealized gain, about 0.67 million, decline in the fair value of securities during the period, 0.29 million, and the net realized gain from sale of Octal, 1.9 million. So this is a combination of things which gave us the 1.8 million net gain. Coming to the rental income. During the period, we have 13 units were rented. We are at an occupancy, this is our head office building, 62%, compared to 4 units during the period ended a year ago. Of course, this has resulted in increase in rental income. Coming to share of loss and profit from associates and subsidiaries net, in June, 172,000, whereas in June 2021, 495,000 roughly. During the period, the parent company recorded a net share of loss of 172,000 from associates, roughly 48,000, and subsidiaries, 124. Now, of course, we manage also, as you've seen in the profit and loss account, our staff costs have reduced by 18+% compared to the same period in 2021 due to reduction in staff numbers. Gentlemen, these are all, what you've seen right now is an overview. You've seen the financial position on total assets, how liabilities have changed, how our borrowings have changed, how debt equity has changed. You've looked at the components of the profit and loss, how we managed to control the costs and settle things. And you've also seen a major analysis of all the major items. If you have any questions, please, the floor is open for your questions right now.
What happened, sir?
Can you hear me, guys? Let me just end show.
Go to chat, Rafi.
Huh?
Look at the chat.
Where is chat?
Yeah, go to the chat messages. That is just from.
What's in it? What is it? Does it say عمان الإمارات؟
عمان الإمارات تملك استثمارات في شركة الألمنيوم، وهذه الشركة مستمرة في تحقيق الخسائر، وفي كل ربع ترتفع الخسائر. هل توجد لديكم خطة لمعالجة ومتابعة شركة الألمنيوم؟
This is about aluminium. Look, it will not be fair or prudent or wise from us to make any comment about one of our companies. Of course, we have a representative over there and it's being pursued, and then our board will take the decision.
I think there's something above also.
Above as well. Let me
Yeah,
see.
let's move.
Yeah, okay. What is it? Great. Let's start with the first one. Thank you for your presentation. Great. As shareholders of Oman and Emirates Investment Holding Company, we thank the board of directors for its efforts in enhancing the company's financial efficiency. We hope that the board of directors will take into account the priority of distributing cash dividends to shareholders with the improvement of the company's results and its achievements of profits and the reduction of total borrowings. The company's last cash dividend was more than 14 years ago, which is very long perished in cash dividend. We hope that the company will distribute cash dividends to shareholders by end of the current fiscal year, if possible. Thank you very much for the comment. And of course, as I said, I'm sure our board will consider it to be unwise for us to say something about this. We'll take this into account and pass this message on to the board. Mrs. Mara, we've answered this one.
في حد عنده استفسار ثاني إخواني اللي موجودين على الشات معنا أو على المنصة؟ إذا ما في أي استفسارات.
Any other question, gentlemen, before?
Is written.
Yeah, okay. شركة عمان الإمارات تملك بعض الاستثمارات.
نعم، عمان الإمارات تملك بعض الاستثمارات في شركة الألمنيوم والعمانية الأوروبية، وطبعا الشركة تقوم بمتابعتها بشكل مستمر.
صح.
أي سؤال ثاني إخواني؟
Gentlemen, are there any other questions? أي سؤال ثاني شباب؟
What did he say in the end?
No, he says Oman Emirates owns also other investments apart from aluminium, Oman Euro. Yeah. As I said, yeah, we.
في أسئلة ثانية إخواني؟
سعيد، السلام عليكم. سعيد،
يا مرحبا،
كيف الحال؟ بخير؟
يا حي الله وسهلا.
بس بغيت استفسر عن عمان والإمارات تملك استثمارات في شركة الألمنيو، وشركة الألمنيو مستمرة في تحقيق الخسائر في كل ربع، وترتفع من ربع إلى ربع، ما تنخفض الخسائر هذه، ما صارت شو اسمه، ما فيها معالجة للخسائر. شركة كل ربع تتعذر بشيء، مستمرة في هذا الشيء. صحيح. كذلك الشركة الأوروبية مستمرة في الخسائر من كم سنة، وإلى اليوم ما صار في أي معالجة للخسائر أو متابعة الشركة، وأنتم تقولوا نحن نتابع الشركة. أي متابعة؟ والشركات هذه التابعة لكم مستمرة في تحقيق الخسائر. يعني إيش اللي أنتم سويتوه كل سنة عالجتوا هذه الخسائر في هذه الشركات الاستثمارية التابعة للشركة؟ الحين ما معقولة نحن في كل سنة نقص نقول لكم إن هذه الشركات محققة خسائر وبدون أي يكون ما في أي رد من عندكم في معالجة هذا الموضوع. الحين الألمنيو من ربع إلى ربع ترتفع خسائرها، ما في حد يراقب ويتابع على موضوع استثمارات الشركة. الحين الأوروبية نفس الشيء، الأوروبية من كم سنة هي مستمرة في تحقيق الخسائر، ما في أي معالجة ومتابعة وأعذارهم كثيرة. ما تصير هذه السالفة. يعني نتمنى منكم يا أخ سعيد ويا مجلس الإدارة إنكم تتابعوا في استثمارات الشركة. يعني نحن ما بنقيس على هذه السوالف إن نحن الشركة تحقق خسائر عن طريق استثمارات تابعة وما في أي متابعة ولا اهتمام. تقولون نحن نتابع وتقولون نحن ونتابع في استثمارات الشركة. إذا كان في متابعة مفروض أن الشركة خفت خسائرهن، الحين ترتفع.
من عفوا ياسر الكريم
معك طلال.
مرحبا اخوي طلال، يا حي الله وسهلا فيك.
اوكي اخ طلال، مرحبا اخ طلال.
ملاحظاتك رافي كوزاجان راح يجيبك على السيارة.
اخ طلال، كما تعرف الالومنيوم والعمانيه الاوروبيه شركات مساهمه عامه غيرنا نحن. هلا الموضوع ايه ما بنقدر اليوم نتحدث عن هالشركات مساهمه عامه، هن عندهم وجود وهن عندهم نعملوا الانفستر سيشن مثل ما عم نعمل اليوم. يا ريت لو
بالنسبه لنا بعد اذنك رافي، بالنسبه لنا احنا في ممثلين عندنا في الشركه العمانيه الاوروبيه وفي الالياف البصريه في مجلس اداره الشركه. طبعا ممثلينا هناك قايمين بدور كبير، لكن تعرف انت السوق الحين اصبح بعد فتره كورونا بالنسبه صارت مشاكل عندهم كثيره بسبب المنافسين الشديدين للبضاعه هذه.
على كل حال نحن عم نتابع،
احنا طبعا نراقب عن كثب. يعني طبعا بالنسبه للالمنيوم نحاول ان نشوف لها صرفه يعني في اسرع وقت ممكن، ومجلس الاداره جالس يتابعها اول باول هذه الشركه، لان تعرف احنا ما الوحيدين هناك، في اعضاء ثانيين ومستثمرين ثانيين. فبالنسبه لتفاصيل الخسائر اللي عندهم الدقيقه، هم طبعا رايحين يعملوا برزنتيشن نفس البرزنتيشن هذا، ولازم وهم رايحين يتحدثوا عن المشاكل اللي يواجهوها في السوق المحلي والسوق الخارجي.
اوريدي عملوه سعيد،
فهم اعتقد يمكن عملوا جمعيه عامه، نزلوا البيانات الماليه، واعتقد عملوا فيديو كونفرنس.
اخ طلال هن عملوا تعرف السيشن الالومنيوم، يا ريت لو تطلع على السوق.
ايوه هم عملوا فيديو، بس الفيديو ما دخلوا فيه كثيرين يعني كان الرابط فيه مشكله.
صح. بعد
هم تعرف ايش يواجهوا طلال؟ هم عندهم منافسه شديده، هم يواجهوا منافسه شديده في السوق. يعني صار ضعف في سوق الكونستراكشن، تعرف بالالمنيوم.
سعيد ما بنقدر نحكي عن،
لكن احنا ما نقدر ندخل في تفاصيل ثانيه، لان كل شركه هي مسؤوله عن افصاحها، فما نعرف ما نروح نتدخل في افصاحاتهم هم. وبالنسبه للعمانيه الاوروبيه صحيح احنا نملك فيها نسبه كبيره، وهذه احد شركاتنا يعني المباشره في العمانيه الاوروبيه، لكن كذلك العمانيه الاوروبيه قدموا برزنتيشن، وممكن نعطيكم نبذه بسيطه رافي بس
ولا شيء. اخ طلال خلينا نركز على يعني نتائجنا نحن عارفين، بس كل الملاحظات اللي عملنا نحن عارفين عنه، عارفين ان شاء الله يعني. واحسن شيء المتابعه مع الشركات لما بيعملوا، شوفوا الافصاح اللي عملوا. اوكي اخ طلال، بس الملاحظات اخذناها. شكرا.
بصراحه ما قصر مجلس الاداره الجديد اللي جاء في عمان الامارات، جزاه الله خير. الشركه بدات تحقق ارباح، ونتمنى لكم التوفيق في هذا الشيء.
تسلم اخ طلال،
تسلم.
ونتمنى لكم الاستمرار في تحقيق الارباح.
تسلم اخ طلال، شكرا.
العفو، الله يعافيكم.
الله يسلمك. اي استفسار اخواني ثاني قبل لا نغلق الاجتماع؟
Gentlemen, anybody else listening before this session, please your queries if you still have any. Anyway, maybe as a closing, I mean, the executive management of Oman Emirates appreciates the opportunity given by the CMA and the Muscat Securities Exchange, and we wish all the very best to all the attendants today and the participants. Thank you very much for your comments. Everything has been noted, and of course, we're going to disclose all of this on the Muscat Securities Exchange website. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
إذا أي استفسارات أو معلومات مكاتبنا مفتوحة للجميع. شكرا جزيلا.
Okay.
1 second.
Yes.
Just wait 1 minute if anyone else has anything to say.
Anybody else? No. I think with this, I think we shall end this session with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's close the session.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.